From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said Republicans will continue to pursue their inquiries against President Joe Biden and his family. He hinted that he will elevate ongoing investigations into a formal impeachment inquiry. The White House has dismissed the possibility of impeachment, saying it is a distraction from Biden's economic record. The president's son, Hunter Biden, has featured prominently in the probes, including a plea deal he struck with prosecutors on tax evasion and gun charges. Republicans want U.S. Attorney David Weiss to testify before Congress on the deal. Weiss has denied allegations of political interference. Another probe into the Biden family's foreign business dealings also involves Hunter Biden, but there has been little momentum in gathering facts to substantiate any wrongdoing. Data from NASA is showing that global sea level rise is posing a significant threat to coastal regions and ecosystems. The rise in water level is due to the melting of ice sheets, glaciers, as well as the warming of seawater. NASA's comprehensive analysis notes that global sea levels have been rising gradually over the past 3 decades. On average, sea level has risen more than 3 inches since 1993. A new study warns of the risk of a pandemic in the U.S. due to high-risk human-animal contact. The study, conducted by Harvard Law School and New York University, cites the lack of a comprehensive strategy to address the dangers posed by the animal industry. The research has found major regulatory gaps through which pathogens can be carried and spread. It has also discovered that the large-scale use of animals makes the U.S. vulnerable to zoonotic disease outbreaks. The report examined 36 different livestock industries. Those include fur farming, the exotic pet trade, hunting and trapping, industrial animal agriculture, and backyard chicken farming. It assessed the risks they pose if they cause a large-scale disease outbreak. The United States is the world's largest importer of live wildlife. It brings in over 220 million wild animals from abroad annually. America's largest academic association has joined a Palestinian call to boycott Israeli academic institutions that support Israel's apartheid regime. The American Anthropological Association has 12,000 members. 71% of them supported the boycott, which will apply only to institutions, not individual anthropologists. The organization's motion reads, Israeli academic institutions are complicit in the oppressive regime of the Israeli state against the Palestinians. A UN Special Rapporteur and groups such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and others have confirmed that Israeli authorities are committing apartheid against the Palestinian people. The vote is an important victory for the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, or BDS, movement for Palestinian human rights. BDS calls for nonviolent pressure on Israel to end its occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. An Islamophobic group in Denmark burned a copy of the Quran on Tuesday outside the Turkish and Egyptian embassies in the capital, Copenhagen. The group Danske Patrioter was behind the act that has drawn widespread condemnation from across the Muslim world. Denmark's government has condemned the burning, calling it a shameful act that disrespects the religion of Muslims. The foreign ministry says it hurts many and creates division between religions and cultures, but authorities have not taken action against those responsible. The European Union and Tunisia have signed a $1.1 billion deal to cooperate on stemming the flow of migrants to Europe. The agreement has drawn criticism from human rights groups because it could lead to serious rights violations. The deal includes provisions to prevent migrants from entering Europe irregularly. It also provides for the repatriation of Tunisian nationals living in Europe illegally, as well as migrants of other nationalities to third countries. Human rights groups say the deal comes amid reports of escalating violence and mistreatment of sub-Saharan African migrants by Tunisian authorities. Yves Geddy, director for Europe at Amnesty International, calls the agreement ill-advised and a dangerous extension of an already failed migration policy. She says it is a sign that the EU accepts the increasingly repressive behavior of the Tunisian president and government. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, a strong supporter of the deal, says it could become a model for future agreements with other countries. On Sunday, Meloni hosted a day-long summit on migration, attended by leaders from about 20 Mediterranean and Middle Eastern countries. At least 74 Rohingya migrants were arrested in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh. The captured included more than 50 men, 14 women, and 5 children living in 6 districts of the state. A campaign was recently launched in Uttar Pradesh against the Rohingya. Hundreds are fighting ongoing cases in the Indian Supreme Court against deportation. More than 1 million Rohingya, described by the UN as the world's most persecuted people, forcibly fled their homes in Burma in 2017. This was following a military genocide of their community. About 40,000 Rohingya live in India, with 20,000 registered with the UN Refugee Agency. Rohingya activists in India have campaigned against the arrests, urging the government to uphold commitments to human rights. Saber Kyao-min, director of the Delhi-based rights group, says asylum seekers in India have not committed any crime. He says detainees include pregnant women, children, and disabled persons. Iraq seizes 1 million Captagon pills in Baghdad. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Iraqi security forces have announced a seizure of nearly 1 million Captagon pills in the possession of a foreign drug trafficker. Security forces seized large quantities of the drug hidden in a truck en route to a northern province. Iraq has emerged as a major transshipment point for the amphetamine-like drug, which often originates in bordering Syria. Oil-rich Gulf states, which are target markets for Captagon, have urged Iraqi authorities to crack down on the drug. Iraq's government recently launched a massive campaign to fight drug trafficking. On July 16th, the Interior Ministry reported the discovery of a lab for the production of Captagon in the south. Earlier, authorities announced the dismantling of an international drug trafficking network and the capture of 3 of its members. They seized 2 million Captagon pills in the southern province of Muthanna on the border with Saudi Arabia. In related news, Saudi Arabian authorities have seized more than 6 million narcotic pills from a shipment originating in Oman. Saudi state news agency SPA reports a Saudi and a Syrian national were detained in the capital Riyadh on charges of transporting narcotics. More than 6 million Captagon tablets hidden in sweets, citrus fruits, and nuts were seized in an operation carried out in cooperation with Omani police. A policeman was killed in an explosion at a mosque in northwest Pakistan on Tuesday. Police say it was the third blast in 2 weeks. Pakistan has seen a drastic rise in militant attacks in recent months. The explosion occurred in the Khyber tribal district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province bordering Afghanistan. Shaukat Abbas, head of the police's counter-terrorism cell, told Anadolu news agency an investigation of the blast has begun. On July 20th, 4 policemen were killed and another 11 injured in the same district. This was after 2 suspected suicide bombers attacked a compound housing a police station. That attack came 2 days after a suicide car bomber targeted a truck carrying security forces in Peshawar, wounding 6 soldiers and 2 civilians. A global humanitarian aid organization is suspending its services in Somalia's Sul region due to the escalating security situation there. Doctors Without Borders says it has become difficult for them to provide medical aid. The Las Anod General Hospital in the Sul region has been frequently attacked. The latest incident involved fighting between forces from the breakaway Somali region of Somaliland and local clan militias. The clashes injured medical staff and nurses, damaged an ambulance, and closed the hospital's maternity ward. Doctors Without Borders says it can no longer guarantee the safety of patients and staff, which is necessary to continue its work. Las Anod residents expressed concern about the group's withdrawal. A Syrian group is calling on UNESCO to protect the historic old city of the capital Damascus after repeated fires there. On July 16th, a fire broke out in Souk Sarouja, known as Little Istanbul, for reasons that are still unclear. It damaged some historic buildings and part of the Damascus Heritage House. Fires broke out in other Damascus bazaars in 2016, 2017, and 2020. In a letter to Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, the group blamed the regime of Bashar al-Assad for 5 fires in Damascus in the last 3 years. The group says the fires occurred at archaeological sites highly symbolic of world heritage in the city and urged UNESCO to take practical measures to protect the sites. The group has established an independent commission for the protection of Damascus's cultural heritage. It will include Syrian statesmen, intellectuals, scholars, and non-governmental organizations from the West and Arab world. Syria has been in a civil war since early 2011, when Bashar al-Assad's regime brutally cracked down on pro-democracy protests. The UN estimates hundreds of thousands of people have been killed and more than 10 million displaced. An Indonesian women's group is preparing to help people if El Niño triggers severe wildfires in the coming months. Aishia, the country's oldest women's organization, has reopened its oxygen houses in Kalimantan and Sumatra. It established these houses in 2019 when over 7 million acres of land in Indonesia were destroyed by forest fires. The houses are equipped with air purifiers and first aid supplies. They provide a haven for young and old people, as well as those most affected by air pollution. Aishia volunteers also aim to raise awareness in the community about how families can best protect themselves from the harmful effects of smoke. The organization has been active in environmental protection since 2015. Its houses also provide education and support services for those affected by wildfires. Last year, the group called for a spiritual battle against climate change. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.